Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, just like the rest of the federal government, there have been significant personnel changes at the FBI since President Trump took office. I want to better understand the scope of the turnover and the changes occurring at the FBI. Since January 2025, how many FBI employees have retired, resigned, been fired, or otherwise separated from employment? I need a number.
We'll get you a number.
What is the number? You don't have it?
Not off the top of my head, and I want to get you the right number.
What played out between Senator Mazie Hirono and FBI Director Kash Patel wasn't just acrimonious. It was revealing. It showed us what happens when a senator comes armed with specific, factual questions, and a witness responds with deflection, hostility, and a whole lot of word salad.
Would it surprise you to know that it's probably in the thousands, like 5,000?
I don't think that number's accurate.
You don't know. Next question. How many special agents or analysts have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Say, we will get you the numbers, and anyone that retires is of their own volition, and anyone that is terminated at the FBI, as I've said before, is done so because they have failed to meet the standards and uphold their loyalty and oath to the Constitution.
Yeah, so you say. Next question. How many executive assistant directors, or special agents in charge have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Again, people leaving on their own accord or terminations were done by the standards set at the FBI that have been carried out
With this question, I'm
consistently.
getting to the leadership of the FBI, and you don't have that answer. Next question. Which field office, division, or directorate has lost the most personnel since January 2025? And do you have the answer to that question?
Yeah, actually, every single field office in the country, including Hawaii, has received a plus-up of FBI agents because we're pushing them out to the field.
Okay, so you're telling me that no field office, division, or directorate has lost any personnel since January 20th, 2025? That's your answer?
In Hawaii, there's been a plus-up. In every single state that I'm looking at, we have allocated a plus-up for field offices across the country so that the FBI can continuing the historic achievements it's done in these last 7 months. When you're talking about firings, you're looking for a media hit and a fundraising clip, and I'm not going to give it to you.
It doesn't matter under what basis they left. I just want to know how many have left. And I think your testimony is nobody has left. Next question.
Nope, that's not my testimony. You asked it one time. I answered it one time. You didn't get the answer you wanted for your clips.
Next question.
You keep asking it, and I told you I'd get you the numbers, but you can keep asking it.
Which field office, division, or directorate has gained the most personnel since January 2025? You noted that there have been plus-ups, so which offices have received these plus-ups?
The greatest allocation that I believe was given to California and then Florida.
Where were those offices?
California and Florida.
Thank you. Director Patel, you often refer to FBI agents as cops. All of us, Democrats and Republicans, support the police officers who keep our communities safe. But while our states, cities, counties, and towns all employ police officers to protect our communities, Congress has empowered and equipped the FBI to take on missions that local police cannot, especially taking on terrorists, hackers, and spies. I'd like to assess how well the FBI is able to handle its specialized missions under your leadership. The FBI is the nation's lead federal law enforcement agency for investigating and preventing acts of domestic and international terrorism. And yet the executive assistant directors in charge of the FBI's national security and intelligence branches were both forced out at the beginning of the year. Who replaced them in those positions?
Excellent qualified personnel to lead the mission of arresting 23,000 violent criminals this year alone. That's twice as many as before.
Who took the places of
I'm not going to give you any names so you can attack them.
Why not?
So you can attack them. I'm not doing that. The
You're not
people
gonna
sitting
give
in
me the
those seats
names
are
of-
extremely qualified to handle the job.
You're
We
not
would
gonna
not
give
have
me
the
the names
results.
of
We would-
personnel who
we would
should
not
be
have the
on your
reduction
website.
of
Fine,
violence in the
moving
state
on.
of Hawaii if we did not allocate the
Earlier
resources we
this
did.
year, FBI counterterrorist special agents and investigators were reassigned to assist with immigration enforcement. Reportedly, these counterterrorism experts were returned to the jobs they trained for in late January after Iran threatened to retaliate for our strikes on their nuclear facilities. Have those experts remained in the jobs they trained for since that time? Yes or no?
FBI agents' primary responsibility is exactly what they are assigned to do. We always work with our
So since they
interagency
returned
part.
to their positions,
If you're not
are
going to
they
let me
still in
answer,
those
why don't you
positions?
just do your soliloquy in the 4.5 minutes you have
I
left?
am not asking for a soliloquy. It's just a yes or no. Are those people who were returned to their jobs still on those jobs? Yes or no?
They never left.
What was that?
They never left their primary job. It is a surge of resources in law enforcement working with the interagency to combat violent crime and reduce
They were
violent
never-
crime in
okay, they were never
historic
reassigned to do
proportions.
That's your testimony. Okay, Director Patel, the FBI is also the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and
Yes.
cyber intrusions, both by foreign nation states and by non-state hacker groups. Since President Trump's inauguration, the executive assistant director in charge of the criminal and cyber branch and the head of the FBI cyber division have both left the FBI. What are the names of the people who replace them in those positions?
The cyber branch is one of the most impressive at the FBI. 409 arrests this year, 169 convictions. That's a 42% increase from the same time last year.
It's that
So
branch,
any
Mr.
suggestion that the FBI cyber division is not operating at full capacity and better than ever before, the leadership at the branch is implementing these changes necessary to attack the cyber and ransomware infrastructure operators
You know
for Iran,
why
China,
they're
and Russia.
important? I want to know who has those positions, since the people who originally were there.
Supremely
are no longer
qualified
there.
individuals have those positions.
Are they?
Supremely qualified individuals.
Who are they? What are the names?
You're not getting
You don't
them.
know. Special agents who investigate cybercrime were also reassigned for immigration enforcement. Have those expert investigators returned to their duties? Yes or no?
All agents remained on their primary duties while surging to allocate resources for interagency operations to the Homeland Security task forces across this country.
So are you?
Am I what?
See, I'm not getting the yes or no answers. I get all this explanation. So there you go.
No, you get the work that
Are
the men
you
and women of the
planning
FBI are doing. And
Any
you don't want that.
additional personnel cuts to the cyber division in the future?
The only people that will be terminated at the FBI will be those that violate their oath of office or fail to meet the high standards at the FBI.
Director Patel, the FBI is meant to be the tip of the spear in combating terrorism against the United States from both foreign and domestic sources. It's also our lead agency in fighting the hackers who target our businesses and critical infrastructure. But instead of a specialized role fighting these kinds of terrorists, hackers, and spies, you have the FBI playing the role of local police and helping with immigration enforcement. I'm going to move on to my, you've been asked some questions about changes to your hiring standard, and including college degrees and possibly the age. But, one question I had is, that you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So
are
are
being
you requiring
appropriately
these
assessed.
kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy
Excuse me,
and put
the
him in
reason I
handcuffs, you
asked-
better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of harsh pull-ups is really required of FBI agents.
Doing one
Anyway,
pull-up
Mr.
is not
Patel,
harsh,
I
and there are
am
always
gravely
medical
concerned.
exemptions to that.
I am gravely concerned by the state of the FBI under your control. And in fact, you are willing to take a cut in your agency of almost $500 million. So the FBI is losing dedicated employees, decades of expertise and specialization, leading to loss to early retirements, firings, and reassignments to immigration enforcement or conducting local police work. Thousands have already left. For as long as you remain as the head of the FBI, I fear the number of departures and summary firings will continue to grow. Mr. Patel, before the vote on your nomination of this committee, I noted that your most significant qualification, this is not just something that I noted, but others, your most significant
Actually, gets this place going.
qualification was your 100% loyalty to President Trump. And I fear that that continues to be the motivating factor in your position as FBI director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, Mr. Chairman.
Director Patel, did you
Yes.
have anything you wanted to say now?
That is an entire falsehood. You can delete my 16 years of government service to multiple administrations all you want. The fact is that I was a public defender. I was a national security prosecutor. I was a House intelligence staffer. I was a deputy director of intelligence. I was a chief of staff to the Department of Defense and the Secretary of Defense. I led the counterterrorism missions for the White House. Those are just some of the jobs I held in my 16-year career. There was no loyalty then. There's no loyalty now to anything but the Constitution.
Senator Brett.
Yes. Well, before I begin, I want to thank Senator Hirono for what she said, acknowledging that there are physical differences between men and women. Talking about that women wouldn't be able to do as many pull-ups, and I think that she was making a case here that there should be different standards. There's a thing called Title IX, and this is why we continue to say we should have biological men and men's sports and biological women and women's sports. And so I look forward to utilizing that to talk to all of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Maybe they will stand with us in helping us protect women's sports. I think she made a great argument there for it. Moving on to...
Let's start with the most basic question imaginable. How many FBI employees have left since January 20th, 2025? Not a trick question. Not classified, not ideological, just a number. And Patel doesn't have it. Not only does he not have it, he gets visibly irritated that Hirono is asking. He insists he'll get back to her. He dismisses her estimate of thousands leaving. Then he pivots. Then he pivots again. And this is important, because staffing levels at the FBI aren't trivia. They tell you whether an agency is stable or in crisis. They tell you whether experience is being retained or flushed out. They tell you whether morale is collapsing. When someone running a federal agency cannot, or will not, give Congress basic workforce data, that's not a minor oversight. That's a flashing red warning light. What makes this exchange escalate so quickly is that Patel doesn't just dodge. He goes on offense. He accuses Hirono of fishing for media hits. He claims she's looking for fundraising clips. He frames legitimate oversight as political theater. That's not accidental, that's a strategy. Because once you frame accountability as bad faith, you never have to answer another question. Once oversight becomes an attack, transparency becomes optional. And let's be clear, Congress asking how many senior FBI leaders have been fired or forced out is not a media stunt. It's literally Congress doing its job. Patel insists that every single field office has received a plus-up. No losses, no reductions, just gains everywhere. But somehow, at the same time, he admits that executive assistant directors, and key leadership in national security, intelligence, and cyber divisions have all left. So which is it? You can't say nobody, leaving while also refusing to name who replaced top leadership. You can't claim operational success while refusing to identify who's actually in charge. When Hirono asks a simple follow-up, who replaced them, Patel flatly refuses to say. Why? Because transparency would make accountability unavoidable. This is where the exchange turns genuinely alarming. Hirono points out that counterterrorism and cyber experts were reassigned to immigration enforcement. That's not speculation, it's been widely reported. And she asks a yes or no question. Have they returned to their specialized roles? Patel cannot answer yes or no. Instead, he lectures, he filibusters, he reframes. He insists agents never left their primary jobs, even while describing surges that pulled them elsewhere. That matters. Because cyber threats, foreign espionage, and terrorism don't pause while agents are reassigned. You don't fight ransomware attacks with press releases. You don't counter foreign intelligence operations by pretending resources are unlimited. Specialization exists for a reason. What Hirono is really getting at, and what Patel never successfully refutes, is the transformation of the FBI's mission. Instead of being the tip of the spear against terrorism, cyber warfare, and foreign interference, the FBI is increasingly being folded into immigration enforcement and local policing roles. Those roles matter, but they are not what the FBI was built for. When you dilute a specialized agency, you don't strengthen public safety, you weaken it. And when the director of that agency treats questions about this shift as personal attacks, that tells you exactly how politicized the institution has become. Then comes the moment that perfectly encapsulates the broader issue, the pull-ups. Hirono raises concerns about physical fitness standards that may disproportionately exclude women. She's not arguing against fitness. She's asking whether these standards are necessary or exclusionary. Patel responds with bravado, chase bad guys, do pull-ups, end of discussion. But leadership isn't about chest thumping. It's about understanding that standards must align with actual job requirements, not ideological posturing. This wasn't about fitness. It was about signaling, about projecting toughness while dismissing equity concerns as weakness. Hirono ends where this was always heading, loyalty. She states plainly what many observers have noted, that Patel's defining qualification appears to be loyalty to Donald Trump, not independence, not institutional integrity, loyalty. Patel reacts defensively, listing his resume, insisting his only loyalty is to the Constitution. But here's the thing, loyalty isn't proven by speeches, it's proven by behavior. When you stonewall Congress, when you refuse to provide basic data, when you frame oversight as an attack, when you reshape an agency's mission to align with political priorities. That's not constitutional neutrality, that's politicization. And this is where I want to slow down, because this exchange isn't just about Kash Patel or Mazie Hirono. It's about what happens to democratic institutions when transparency becomes optional and loyalty replaces competence as the primary credential. The FBI is not just another law enforcement agency. It is entrusted with immense power, surveillance power, investigative power, prosecutorial influence. That power only remains legitimate if it is constrained by oversight, transparency, and institutional independence. What we saw in this hearing was a director who views oversight as harassment, questions as attacks, and transparency as a threat. That mindset is dangerous, no matter who's in the White House. This isn't about left versus right. It's about whether agencies meant to protect the public are being reshaped to serve political narratives instead of national security. When experienced professionals leave in large numbers, institutional memory disappears. When leadership roles are filled without public accountability, trust erodes. When specialized missions are sacrificed for optics, the country becomes less safe, not more. And when a director responds to legitimate questions with hostility instead of clarity, it tells you the institution is circling the wagons rather than opening the books. Democracy does not survive on vibes, it survives on answers. Congress has the right and the obligation to ask how federal agencies are being run. And the American people have the right to know whether those agencies are still serving the public interest or drifting toward political utility. So the real question coming out of this hearing isn't whether Hirono was too aggressive or Patel was too defensive. The question is this: if the FBI can't answer basic questions about staffing, leadership, and mission priorities, who is it actually accountable to? That's the conversation we should all be having. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this kind of oversight is necessary? Or do you think agencies should operate without this level of scrutiny? And as always, like, subscribe, and share this video if you think transparency in government still matters.